I noticed you are building a little zoo for yourself in the house. You are starting to look like the male version of a cat lady, but in this case you're more of a dog dude. Do you have all of these dogs to cover up the chew marks you leave on the furniture?
Man, that was like 2 or 3 times, and I wasn't really what you would call sober when I did that, so I don't feel like you can hold it against me. But nah, man, I'm not trying to build a zoo. It's just kind of like happening to me over here.
Oh yes, I forgot how everything isn't your fault. Do you know what kind of dog he is? Or is he just your garden variety mutt?
Well, he's actually the sweetest dog there is, but if you're asking the breed and everything, yeah, he's a Australian Shepherd, and I don't know, I think he's probably mixed with something. That lady had like a whole bunch of different looking dogs in her cage. It kind of made me wonder, how in the world did you get like 10 different puppies that all look different? That's weird. Anyways, it's kind of crazy to see how he acts different than the other dogs, and it's not like just because he's a puppy. Like, he uses his hips a lot, like he wants to like pull everybody around by like their neck, and he'll like circle the dogs rather than like running in straight lines whenever he plays. Like, he'll run straight a little bit, but he has to turn real quick. And it's crazy to think like that his ancestors actually had a job to do, and like that's why he acts that way. Like, who was the first guy to start breeding dogs for specific purposes? And like, how long does it take to make a new prototype dog? Like, does the time to make a new dog like get faster as they get more refined? Like, as it gets further away from a wolf, it's easier to make like, oh, I'm gonna make a corgi and now I'm gonna make a poodle, right? But also, it's really interesting that the idea of pure genes in dogs is like seen as a good thing, but if you even hint at striving towards the same thing in humans, you're called a bad person, which I don't necessarily disagree with that statement.
Good to see that someone around here was born with some work ethic. It sounds like you have a new scapegoat to explain your lack thereof. It is quite interesting how dogs are praised for the pure lineage, but humans get called out for the same thing. Planned Parenthood is the only organization that continues to fight for the cause.
Yeah, they are kind of like the last holdouts actually doing something for the eugenics cause, but that's kind of the whole deal with all of these so-called progressives. They're really just trying to take us back to like the 1920s and maybe even further. It's an interesting attempt at time travel. But the funny thing is that, alright, so I looked this up. I was thinking about it the other day. I was like, who created like selective breeding? And I freaking disagree with the internet. Freaking Wikipedia says this guy Robert Bakewell is responsible for breeding sheep in the wools in like the 1800s or something, and they say because he did that he created selective breeding, and I call bullshit. Okay, have you ever heard of the turnspit dog? That thing was around in like I looked it up, 1576. All right, this guy's creating selective breeding in the 1800s, but yet we had this little bitty dog in 1576. This dog was bred to be this tiny little guy that's got good endurance, and the only thing he was bred for is so that he could walk forward just into the void on a little hamster wheel, and it turned some gears that turned a cooking spit, and it would turn meat over a fire. Like, literally, how much selective breeding had to have taken place to get a wolf, or maybe you used a coyote as the base, right, into a little dog that just walks on a wheel all day. So like, clearly selective breeding was a thing like way before the 18th century, and like stuff like that is like why I don't believe anything on Wikipedia, and I find it crazy that like fact checkers use Wikipedia. I grew up in the 2000s, man. Wikipedia was never considered a valid source of information, and it clearly isn't even in 2024. Alright? Dogs were clearly the first robots, right? Because before we had steam power and electricity, we were breeding dogs to do all this stuff that we didn't want to do. Like Harper here, Rhodesian Ridgeback. Look her up, dude, bred to hunt lions. Alright? Yeah, nobody wants to go out and try and fight lions, like they got guns, right? But like, there's like, bro, I better bring a dog with me. Alright, and then you've got Larry over here. He's one of the most modern types of dogs, since his breed was actually made in a lab purely to be able to be good at retrieving things. but it blows me away. Like, the conception of an idea to the execution takes like legitimate dedication. Because I can imagine it takes at least 10 to 20 generations of breeding dogs to get some real significant results from your efforts, right? And that's just so many dogs to take care of, since you can't like risk your breeding stock like running away, and you don't want to have too little of them and then have kind of like an Alabama situation going on, right? Nobody wants that, and it's only going to probably cause your breeding problems to get worse. Like, you're not going to do good. So people back in the day, they didn't live that long. So dedicating like 15, 20 years of your life to like selectively breed a new type of dog is like some next level dedication. I swear to God, nobody alive today can really do that, to just spend 20 years of their life just to make a new type of dog. I just don't think there's money in it nowadays. But in regards to the turnspit dog, imagine hating turning meat over a fire so much, like you're just like, there's gotta be a better way. So you just decided to just drop everything in your life and just start trying to breed little bitty dogs so that they can solve that problem. Like, dude, just people in the past were like built different, bro.
It's as fascinating as it is concerning when you think about things that people have done in to create the perfect worker. It sounds very dystopian if and when the concept is applied to humans. Rounding up those that have desirable traits, moving them to live in a camp with others like them, those in charge choose who has babies with who. I've never been an advocate for the robot overlords, but in this instance drones and robots taking their jobs sounds like a net positive.
Oh yeah, man. It's pretty twisted whenever you think about selective breeding and like what has to be done to do it. But, you kind of got to do what you got to do to achieve genetic perfection. And I will say, technology in just taking away jobs is a double-edged sword, especially like whenever it comes to dogs and stuff like that. So like one instance is really good that like we don't have dogs do anymore is that back in like World War II, they were trying to come up with like a tank buster, and so they trained dogs to go under tanks and blow themselves up with this like little jihad vest. Thankfully, it was not super effective and didn't become a super common practice, purely because they didn't have a lot of German tanks. They looked and sounded different than the American tanks did, but they were just training them to go under tanks. But the sound and visual difference caused the dogs to only go under the American tanks, and so they were basically friendly firing all the time. So yeah, had to get rid of them that way. But it is a bit crazy to see how much we've replaced dogs, but also not at the same time. Like, I saw this video of a freaking drone, I think it was in China, dropping this robot dog off on top of a roof, and this robot dog has like a giant machine gun on the back of it, and like, dude, they made a gun platform that looks and moves like a dog, since like it's better than the tracked robots that we've always been using. But like, in the modern age, we still need to find like, we need dogs to like find drugs, bombs, bodies, fugitives, truffles, help blind people, and help progressives not get triggered, right? Like, we need dogs for all of these things. But so no matter how fancy like the gadget is and all the other crazy stuff, a lot of it still can't compare to little old Bubba over here, right? And one thing I'll say is that, like, I see why cops and a lot of like law enforcement uses dogs and stuff like that, because I swear to God, there is nothing more terrifying than seeing a dog barking and just itching to bite you. Like, even whenever I'm just like watching cops and I hear the dog just and like you see that handler like trying to like pull that dog back and like, no, don't bite him. Like, that's so scary, dude. And so I can see why they're used, but like, they do actually have some extra jobs and stuff, but like, they are the most intimidating member of the police force.
That's a chilling reminder of how advancements in technology often blur the lines between what's morally acceptable and what's not. While drones and robots may seem like the future, there's something irreplaceable about the instincts and intuition of a well-trained dog.
Yeah, I really don't think you can like program that in, and I honestly think that autonomous drones are like the worst idea. like ever. I don't care how well it's programmed or you think that it's hack proof or whatever, it's not, okay? That thing can get hacked, and depending on the drone's job, that can either be nuisance or catastrophic, right? Like, dude, have you seen the freaking like swarm drones that they have? They like launch them up like it's mortars or whatever, and then they'll put them all up in the sky and they start flying around looking for targets. And these are autonomous drones, mind you, right? And they find one of them, they let the rest of the members of the swarm know, they'll come over, and then they all just kamikaze down into this target and just take stuff out, bro. Like, nobody's in charge of this, right? See, at least with a dog, like, it has its own logic, and I'm pretty sure cannot be remotely controlled, right? I only say that because I know mind control's been like a dream of people and the government for like a long time, and if it does exist, I wouldn't imagine that they would let that tech be like super commonplace. But you know, you never really know, man. But the way I see technology is it's a lot like everything else. They're all best done in moderation, not doing it too often or going too hard, and there is no single solution that solves all of life's problems, despite what the infomercials say.
Bow, 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 bow.